Namaskaram and a very good morning, everyone. Please confirm if I'm audible to you all. And do switch on your videos. Please switch on your videos. Okay, Rajan was there last time. Rajan, unmute yourself.
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Good morning. So we worked on the first 1 hour strategy. Where do you stand in that? Because it's been more than 10 days. I think it's on 14th, right? So this is the 10th day.
Yes, sir. I took up in SFM, and after that I took corporate and economic law. In that I spent that 50-hour challenge, and I am reasonably covered many chapters in as far as law is concerned. But as far as writing practice, the main problem was whenever I took paper to write, but I decided all questions. Okay, I want to write this, but when I started writing, I couldn't recollect because of only one time reading and all that. So after that, my mind telling me, okay, rather than I am not able to write as of now, mean proper provisions and explanation and all that. So I supposed to solve the paper so that at least I can utilize proper time. So just because of that, maybe that mind issue or whatever, I stopped writing and I solving paper. So that maybe I don't know mistake or not, but because I couldn't able to solve, I couldn't write.
Okay, got it. So I'll explain you what actually happens in the main exam. I believe all of you would have spent at least a couple of months. Rajan, how long you have been preparing?
I am preparing properly from mid-March, but before that I was, some days, some and leaves. And
at least, see, if you look at it, at least you have spent 120, 130 hours for each subject cumulatively. Now, you think about it clearly, when there are only, let's say we have only 1 week left, when there is only 1 week left, what is the most important activity which you can do? See, I'm not saying you're wrong in thinking so, but on the day of the exam, there is only one skill which gets tested. What is it?
Presentation and writing.
This exam is a written exam, right? It's not an oral exam. It's a written exam. So when you have to write something, the only way you can improve it is to rewrite, write. That is the only way you can improve. The other way around, like you don't have to answer me. You think about it. If something is not resolved over 7 to 8 weeks or even longer, what can happen in just 1 week? You think about this, because in 8 weeks, if there is no significant improvement, if there is no movement in 1 week, what can happen? And you need to come out of this self-centered bias where your mind always tells you whatever is easy is more productive. It makes you feel that whatever is easy, writing is hard, thinking is hard, processing is hard. There are hard things because they consume your mental bandwidth. And this is the trap where most of the students fall. I'll tell you, 90% of the students spend majority of the time in watching videos. You are slightly better because you have been brainwashed to do something more meaningful and productive from day zero. So at least revising, you are getting into active mode of preparation. Outside this, if you observe, the most common format of spending their time is watching videos. They call it rapid revision lectures, whatever, because it is dumb. You just have to watch a movie, somebody is doing something, you get an illusionary feeling that you are completing the syllabus, whereas the faculty is completing the syllabus. Now that is done. Next is taking a book and sitting with that. Like they spend hours and hours and hours in libraries. Like you see people, right? For 4 to 5 attempts, they sit in libraries. Nothing happens. Why? This is passive form of preparation. The less intense you do it, the less outcome you'll get. What is active form of preparation? When you're writing the day and revision at the beginning of the day, you're forcing your mind to think through it. It's simple, Rajan. The only way I'm able to answer your question is because I have answered this question X number of times over the last 3 years. I'm not getting it directly. Now, if suddenly I get a question which I never thought of, I'll draw a blank. I cannot answer you. Now, how would I take this decision to solve people's problems live? Because I have done it. That's it. That is the only way. Now, the same thing when you look at a question paper, you should have processed it already. You would have solved it already. You should have thought about it already. Now, that is the only way it can solve. Otherwise, what will happen? If you take 30 to 40 minutes in understanding, processing, recollecting, recalling, when would you present it? When would you write it? So it's up to you, because there are two ways of learning something. You understand it much before the mistake happens, or learning from the mistake. Either way, it's fine. But even if you get it at the right time, it saves an attempt. So that is something which you guys should get into. But again, this is all about giving you a context about what has to be done in the next, I would say, 70-80 hours. So in the main exam, I'm just giving you the equation. So when you're actually writing the exam, so you can look at it as 20 into 5. Okay, so on average, or you can do it as 14 into 5. Out of this, you should, there is a very little chance that you'll answer all the 5 properly. You only have to get 2 questions right properly. If your preparation is reasonably good, if you're able to attempt 2 questions properly, if it's a MCQ based paper, substitute 3. 20 into 2 is equal to 40 marks, 14 into 3 is equal to 42 marks. Okay, 40 marks is what you have to attempt. At this junction, if somebody is going to tell me that I'm not even able to choose 1 question or 2 questions or 3 questions, you know the answer. Like, how should you clear? There is no answer. Why should you clear is what somebody has to think. I'm not talking about all the 5 questions. Out of your weeks and hours and months of preparation, you should be able to just work on this 2 or 3 questions. Now, what should be done about it? Now, last week, when I made you write those 3 papers back to back in just 1 hour space, this is what we are targeting. In the first 1 hour, just identify those 2 questions, or just identify those 3 questions into 14 marks and try to solve them completely. Here we are giving the best case scenario. Here we are giving the highest rate of presentation so that you are maximizing your score. This is score maximization strategy where you are scoring 25 marks. In the first 1 hour, you are maximizing your score to a level where you have to get it. There is no other way. If you're not doing this, imagine this. If you're not able to do this, what will happen? You have to extract marks from all the 5 questions. Now you're increasing the range. You're increasing the range where you have to be reasonably good at all questions. Now you think about it. What is more easier? What is more easier? Can we just focus on 2-3 questions and extract maximum marks, or can you extract some amount of marks in all these 5 questions? In a plain level, it looks like it is easy to get average marks in all 5. Let me get 10 into 5. But you know that it's not possible, right? Because the 4th and 5th question, most likely you would not have done it, or you would not have known it. So the most easiest way is this. And this is not going to happen naturally. It is not going to happen naturally. You just have to do and work on this particular game so that the next 20 marks. Now, what will happen with this? In the first 40 marks, if you're able to score 20 to 24 marks, out of 60, how many marks you have to get? How many remaining marks you have to get out of 60?
36.
Pardon?
36.
36 for you to cross that 50, or even if it's your weakest paper, even 30 would do, right? 28 would do, right? So psychologically, you have to score only 40% of the marks out of the remaining 60. So this is not happening naturally. You have to work on it consciously. It looks simple. It is not simple, but it is the most effective way. So you have to put your efforts towards this in all the papers. Even without looking into the question paper, you should be clear. Okay, if a question is coming from this chapter, I'm going to handle it. This question is coming from this chapter, I'm going to handle it. This topic, this Ind AS, this is how clear you should be. Ind AS 115, 10 marks is going to come. So are you done it so well that you're going to answer any question? A professional ethics question is coming. So performance evaluation question is coming. So all of this, you know it. It's not that you're waiting for something random. Why? You see, no faculty is going to tell you question X or question Y. But at least you know that these are the chapters which are going to give you 40 marks, right? That is the concept of A+. Now, if you're not taking this seriously, or if you're not concluding it reasonably well, probably your strategy has some gaps. So this, I'm saying this to everyone, but so this is the first and foremost important step. Now, today, I'll add one more dimension to this, which will actually make your preparation process a lot more easier. I'm focusing on presentation only for the first 1 hour. For you to score 24 marks out of 40, presentation is extremely important. First 1 hour or maximum first 90 minutes, presentation is important. After that, do not focus on presentation. just work on processing. You need not focus on presentation. You only have to work on processing. Can somebody tell me the difference between these two? What do you think is the difference? I'm saying focus on processing instead of presentation. What is the difference?
In the first part, try to score the maximum amount of marks, and in the second part, you have to try to complete the entire paper.
Absolutely, absolutely. So what we are doing is, when I say presentation, it's a lot of conscious effort for us to present in a particular way. For analogy, I'll give you a simple reason. Now, today we just decided to show up. Like, however we are, we're just coming and meeting. Now, if I say that, let's get dressed, let's meet in a particular way, the content is going to be the same. But the makeup part takes another half an hour, 40 minutes, unnecessary struggle, and we are not in that mental framework, right? So similarly, you just do the makeup part for the first 60 to 90 minutes. Because you have a power start, you want to score 60% or more. Like, it's like the first 1 hour, you have to score an exemption within the 40 marks, right? Out of 40, you have to score 60%. That is where presentation becomes very important. After that, there is no way on earth that you can match the same level of presentation throughout the exam. You already know. So you have to focus on processing. What is processing? It is your ability to break the question and look at what is being asked. So you're investing your time in breaking down the question, then presenting the answer more. Because the problem here is, even if you present properly a wrong answer, you will get the same marks. 0 into any multiple is 0. So that is the mistake which students tend to do. So it's like this first 90 minutes has to be played in a particular way. Next, you have to move into a different format. Or T20 format is how you have to move. For that to happen, you have to consciously start doing it right now. So when I say that A plus category, A category, B category are the questions which you're normally answering in the last. So technically, A plus first hour, A second hour, B third hour. And what's A and B might be different for different students. It need not be the same. When I said something, somebody might find something else comfortable. That's totally fine. Totally fine. Your choice, that has to be respected. But when you're answering the question, that is the approach in which you are going. So technically 24 marks in the first 1 hour, 16 marks in the second 1 hour, 10 marks in the third 1 hour. Now you total can you tell me the numbers? 24, 16, 10. Is it possible? Making sense? Last 1 hour, the number of questions which we know is reduced. Our energy levels are reduced. Our mental bandwidth is reduced. Let's have a reduced target. 24, 16, 10. That's it. Worst case scenario, let's say there are some paper, there will be at least one paper in each group where it hits you hard, bouncer completely, you're taken off. Then it could be the other way around. You got only 10 marks in the first 1 hour. Re-strategize, focus, come back and rebuild in the second hour. Ideally 24, 16, 10 is the way to go. But if something goes up and down, that's okay. At the end of the day, you have to realize that 3 hours or 3 exams, you're writing 3 different exams. If you go into this perspective, what will happen? Okay, I messed up in the first 1 hour. Let me work on this in the second hour. Let me work on this in the third hour. Do not give up in just 1 hour. Right? Life is giving you 3 chances. 3 chances. Any 1 hour is enough. You understand batting power play, first 6 hours, you messed up. Last 4 hours, somebody comes and goes for power hitting. Still, you can win the match, right? We have seen hundreds of cases. For our own World Cup 2011, what happened? Back-to-back wickets in the first 1 hour. Most of the matches won in the second segment. So you can win the exam the first hour or third hour, but you have to be conscious. You have to be clear. Ideally, what is the best way? Power start. How Australia won the World Cup against India. Way back in 2007, 2003, right? So power start, Gilchrist Hedden. It's very comfortable. We know that they're going to win. With India, it was a hard struggle. Eventually, you won. So either way, you understand it. Even 1 hour is going for a toss, that's totally fine. And this is a perspective in which you're doing. So when I'm asking you to solve the questions, spend good amount of time in solving the A plus category questions, even right on a daily basis. The other points, just start processing. What do you mean by processing? Look at the question, underline, highlight, and everything on the question itself. Don't spend time on creating the answer. Process the question and write a 2-mark answer for every question. Even if the question is for 20 marks, just write a 2-mark answer. Check. Are you going in the right direction? Are your steps right? That's it. Are you going in the right direction? Are your steps right? That's it and close. So essentially, you should start cracking papers in 60 to 90 minutes. And I'll tell you I would say back in reason for I'm saying it. When I'm telling you something, it's pure content you cannot understand. There has to be a context. It's like digging holes when you're planting a tree. Now, the reason why we are having this 15-minute conversation right now is, next I'm going to show you some mistakes which examiners point out. For you to understand them, I'm creating a context. What are the mistakes you're going to do? So similarly, for you to remember some information, remember some points, you have to create a context. What is that context? Attempt a question, make mistakes, then look at the answer, you'll remember them. Okay, this mistake is something which I've done. In the main exam, you won't get carried away. That's it. It's the most powerful strategy. And this is the only strategy that works universally. So if your preparation is not happening properly, students do it the other way around. I did not complete the syllabus, let me complete the syllabus. If you did not complete the syllabus, you should write more exams than what other people do. If syllabus is completed, at least you're reasonably clear. The lesser you study, the lesser you revise, the more you have to do, because you have to fix the gap. The lesser you score in non-power play overs, the more you have to score in power play overs. This is the game. So don't get carried away by what your mind is thinking. At least 1 week, give your complete attempt. This 1 week gives you value, which is equivalent of 2 to 3 weeks, because there is no bullshit and you have your cache memory working very well. Like you can dump in the exam. Dumping actually works. Like you rev whatever you can and then dump. But again, if you are reading random stuff, that won't work. It should have been already read. So it should have been already processed. That is when you can complete 1.5 months syllabus in 1.5 day. So whatever you're going through is totally fine. It's part of the process. And as long as somebody has filled in like the day end revision for at least 35 to 40 times, I'm saying 50 times, but okay, 30 times, 35 times, you've already done something. Exam is like 5 to 6 times, you're in a very, very good position, because 90% of students in India don't even know this. You've done this directly linked to the exam, you've done this. So be confident. Don't let your confidence get affected with what is happening, but be confident and clear. But this is how you have to approach. Presentation for the first 1 hour, then processing. And if you get time, then focus on one more question presentation. That's it. You'll end the game. For you to do it, start solving every question as it's asked for 2 marks. Even if it's a 20-mark question, look at the question, process it, write the points. Understanding, if it's clear till this condition, please type clear, all of you, if it's clear. Before I proceed forward, in this regard, if anyone has, because I have took the context of Rajan and I have answered it. If anyone has any other questions, please let me know. I'll invite you into the hot seat. I'll solve your question also. And then we'll look into some examiner comments. You'll understand what I'm talking about. If anyone has any questions in this regard, I can bring you onto the screen. You can raise your hands or ping me in the chat box. If I did not cover something which you are having an issue. Yes, Priyanka, go ahead.
Sir, I'm just a little worried about the case study part in SCMP, how to go about it, because every time there's a new case study in the paper and it is a compulsory 20-mark question. I'm very nervous about that portion.
Right, you have to understand this. Case study is an extended format of a question. Like I'll tell you the difference. You need to know what is a question and a case study. Question comes without a context, like it's picked out of the textbook, right? Like when you have this module, the context of the question is a particular chapter in the textbook. Without, they don't talk about it, they'll directly ask a question. Now, what is a case study? They recreate a scenario. It's not directly picked up from your textbook. They create a scenario and the questions are asked from that. Technically, if I have to be honest, there are many case studies where you can answer the question without worrying about the case study, because they have created some extra information that is there. But having said that, we should not miss out some essential points. So the additional thing is you have to spend some time to the specific context which is asked in the case study. The end question most likely might be the same question. The context could be a trap for some questions. So do not think too much about what is a case study and all of that. And I'm telling you, the real case studies are actually hard. McKinsey level case studies, MBA case studies are very hard. CA case studies are reasonably simple. So having said that, how would you convert this GYAN into practicality? I would say solve at least 10 case studies. One single day in the 40-hour challenge. Solve. You understand the pattern of what exactly is being asked. So you'll know what part of case study you should focus upon. It probably leads to a point where a lot of people solve case study from bottom up. Like they look at the question first, then they'll try to find the relevant points. How many of you do this? Like when you look at it, see, Nanavel does it and all of you, that's a very effective way. That's a very effective way because you know what amount of information which you have to search, right? So this, for you to get some comfort, Case studies and MCQ, it's direct practice. It's direct practice. And for MCQ, as I said last time, in order to increase the accuracy of MCQ, try to answer the MCQ without looking into the options. If somebody is getting less than 50% in MCQs, your accuracy rate is a problem. So you're getting biased with the options. Before you solve the question, look at the question and try to think of an option, like naturally, and then look at the option. Then the accuracy rate will be clear. Otherwise, you'll be biased that you're writing a right answer and end up scoring wrong. If you know that it's a wrong answer, that's different. That is one thing. Case studies, solve 10 case studies in a single stretch. So at the end of it, it will become like a question. So this is what I can do at this junction, at this standpoint. Okay, so don't treat it like a different point. Next. Sure, most will. Next. Any other questions which we did not cover? Anyone else? Perfect. So let me now bring your attention to this. Please let me know if you're able to see this. Is the screen visible to all of you? So what I generally do is whenever the suggestion of this comes, whenever I get access to these comments, I'll be specifically looking into the mistakes. As I said, exam mistake tracker is all about finding out mistakes, right? So I just want to bring your attention to some of the mistakes because we already discussed about this context in a very deep manner. Now, I just want you to go through this. We'll spend just 10 minutes on this so that you'll understand where we are going down. Now, if you look at the specific question number 1, okay, this question number 1, examinees were generally aware about Ind AS 24 and related party concept, but they were lacking in the knowledge of related party of government organization. How many of you are able to correlate this related party of government organization? Have you processed it already? All those who are writing first 2 or 4 groups. What do you think of related party of government organizations? Can somebody tell me the difference? So he's saying that people understand. He's saying that people understand related parties, but related party of government organization. Why is the examiner mentioning about specifically? So what do you think are the related parties of government entities? Any quick thoughts on this? No idea? Okay, Nana will explain.
They have certain disclosure exemptions
Hmm.
with respect to government entities and the normal entities.
Hmm.
So that is the reason they are specifically mentioning that certain point is not applicable to government entities.
Right. So if you look at it, the way the question is asked is, everybody knows this. Okay, this is like a BCom level question. What is different about CA question is they always focus on exceptions and exemptions. Most of the questions are asked around exceptions and exemptions. Why do they test that? Because that requires a certain level of depth. It is very easy to get carried away. So whenever you look at something like that, whenever you look at that, this is the norm, this is the exception, this is the exemption. There is a very high likely chance that that might related parties is important, but what is more important than this? So which means that if you're writing an answer which is about related parties, it is right but not relevant to the question. So I would say at least 10 to 12 marks of students are wasted, are lost because of this, where you're writing right answers which are not relevant to the specific context in question. So when you're revising, pay specific attention to exemptions and exceptions. If there is a norm, but this is an exception. But this, and this is the most common format of questioning. You can think about this. The same will happen in professional ethics. The same will happen in law. I would say in law also. So audit and law, you have to pay specific attention to this. At least 10 to 20 marks will get tested because of this. So one example I'm giving because we don't have time to cover all, but this is one important area where questions will be asked and mistakes will be made. Okay. Next, most of the examiners have knowledge of requirements given in SA 560 again, but most of them answered that the fresh report cannot be issued. They're talking about something generic. Then what is the deviation? What is the exception? examiners give general answer and fail to specific answer according to SA 570. So again, if you look at B and C, if you look at it, they're talking that you are giving general answers, but it is vague, it is not specific, it is not precise. So why would people give only general answers when you're not revised the specific provisions 3 to 4 times, when you're not written it, when you're not processed it, you cannot go to the nitty-gritty. It's like remembering a person by the first name, but you're not able to remember them with the last name, because there is some gap in terms of how much acquaintance you have with them. So this is the problem. So if you write this, instead of scoring 3 by 4, you'll end up scoring 1.5, because the answer, I would say, marks giving criteria is based on the part which you are missing. The part which you have written, the 75% which you have written will have only 25% weightage. The 25% which you are missing will have 75% weightage. So pay extra attention to those. Next, few examiners referred provisions given in the class in 3CD, which was required in the question. Examiners failed to exhibit knowledge of SA 520 and gave answer in general terms. If I look at it, in the last 4 bits, failed to give specific answer, gave answer in general terms. And here they're talking about no idea about matters covered in reporting in case of comprehensive audit and quoted irrelevant points. Examiners were not aware of that topic based on the requirements of the internal field. Examiners were not aware of the concept of pool account and beneficiary account and answered only general points. Every question they're talking about general points. Examiners failed to point out the basic assumptions about element of good control in case of standard internal questionnaire. Many examiners based the exception they missed it out. Examiners have answered the question in general terms and not specifically to the point. Very few examiners have attempted that question and they are lacking knowledge of limitations in peer review. Let's look at one more. Few examiners attempted this question. Examiners are not aware of the topic about the forensic audit, answered only general points. Now, out of the 10 questions which you looked at, six points we're talking about, they gave only general answer. Once again, they gave only general answer. This is the second significant or the most important point, a most important mistake which is getting repeatedly. So why do you think this is happening? Your evaluators are clearly saying that most of the students are answering the points generally. What do you think? Like, why do you think it is happening? And what do they mean by answering in general points? Any thoughts on this? Have you thought about this? Have you looked at it? Because that is the most likely reason why you may not score what you want to score, right? They're talking about you. I want some thoughts, all of you. Let me take this into gallery mode. Yeah, quickly, I want responses from all of you. Ankit, now why are they mentioning that you guys are answering in general points? What do they mean by general points?
Sir, I think there's in question there is some they are asking about some specific points, but we are writing a full provisions rather than that specific points.
Can you give me an example?
It's about
In the same, we pick up an example. Think and tell me an example. Surendra, Chakri, Rajan, all of you, like what exactly are they talking about? You have to be aware of this.
Sir, according to me, I feel like whenever we are answering a question in an examination, due to a time constraint also, we don't stress upon the provisions that is basically asked. We tend to think about round the corner, like what exact match or what similar provisions that we can write. So whatever comes to our mind, we don't even think that whether it is purely relevant to the question that is asked. We tend to write it.
Right. It's a very valid point. Now, can someone tell me why is this happening? Her reason is right. Even Nirvan was saying not writing keywords. Yes, you are right. So why is this happening? It's not that you don't know, right? Like, why do you think it is happening?
Sir, because when I was writing group 1, my personal experience with audit was I took like 6 attempts to clear, and even in 6th attempt I managed just a 42 in audit. I got 70 in SFM. So because theory was a problem. So the main problem in theory subject is that we do not pen down things. If we just pen down just the points,
Right.
And institute gives you marks even on the points, even if you write kachra inside, but the main point is okay, they'll give you at least 2 out of 4 or at least 3 out of
Right.
6, 50% they award. So if you
Right.
have written, it will click. If you have not done a pencil pen practice, it will not click you in the paper. This was my experience. Maybe I'm wrong, but this is what helped me. Still, I managed just a 42, but this helped me.
Perfect. That's a good insight, Priya. Thank you for that. See, you need to understand when you're going into a professional exam, I'm talking about your backend. A lot of students have a hide and seek mentality where they don't want to expose their subject to the exam. Are you understanding what I'm saying? They want to write something, they don't want the examiner's attention onto the answer. They expect it does not look into the answer completely. They expect the numbers are not visible, your mistakes are hidden. So chupa chup game there. Like, you're understanding what I'm talking about? This approach is very dangerous. This approach is very dangerous because no matter how you behave, there is a CC camera which you cannot avoid. So open up. Respect the fact that you may not know everything. You may not understand everything. You cannot attempt the entire paper. The examiner also knows that. That is the reason why they're saying that get those bloody 40 marks, not 80 marks. Everybody knows it. So you have to accept the situation. Second thing, it's not about you're not making a mistake. You don't have to feel guilty that you don't complete X amount of portion. As long as you studied it decently, as long as you put in solid 30 to 40 days of effort. 30 to 40 days is a great amount of effort. Even people who started early, who will start on the day of the result, there'll be a lot of dot balls. So 30 to 40 days, if you have put in this for a group, it's a decent attempt. Like you've done something, it's good enough for you to clear. You need not have that guilt that something is missing. So don't play hide and seek. Now, if I bring this point in perspective with what we have started with the discussion with, there will be at least 1 to 1.5 hours where you have to play openly and freely, where you need not worry about the time constraint and you kind of explain whatever you know about it in a detailed manner. If you're trying to run fast, if you're trying to, race against time, there is a tendency to miss out essential information. So that is exactly why I'm talking about play 50% of the paper like a one-day match and remaining 50% like a test match, where there will be value addition to the point which you write. Instead of scoring 30%, 35%, or 40% per answer, for 40 marks, you can score 60%, remaining 60 marks, you can score 40%. So in your mind, when I'm talking, it is very clear. I need not do this for the entire paper. When I ask you to do this for the entire paper, you cannot. There is no freaking way that you can maintain the same level of quantity, quality, intensity, attention for 3 hours. No, that's not going to work. What can happen is you can match it, you can break it like first 70, I would say 60 to 90 minutes of the paper. You push everything, and you can avoid all these mistakes. You can think through the question clearly. You can think through the structure of the answer clearly. So just do that. You'll see the improvement in the quality of the answer. You can definitely do that. In the next 1 week, as we are proceeding, the last 1 week, we are only doing 2 things. I'm saying it on record, I'm saying it clearly and directly. We're only doing 2 things. Every single day, do 90 minutes of presentation. 90 minutes enough at any point of time. 2 to 3:30 is fine. 6 to 7:30 is fine. Either do it the examination slot where you can mentally used to that. 90 minutes is absolutely worth investing. Don't let your brain say something else, or you have to decide. You want to trust me or you want to trust your own instincts. That's up to you. I trust your decision, but eventually you have to understand 90 minutes of presentation plus 9 hours of processing. What is processing? Don't try to read, don't try to revise. Look at a question, solve the answer for like as if you're solving it for two marks in 5 to 5 minutes, then look at the answer. I'm adding one element, that's it. You're normally doing question and answer. I'm just adding processing, just 2 more minutes additionally. So that you are solving something which includes recalling the answer, which includes revising the answer, and then looking at the solution. So all these points which you look at will stay in your mind very clearly. When you go into the exam, your mind throws you specific insights in terms of how you process the points. Understanding? Practicing cricket is one thing, practicing hitting shots on Yorker balls, let's say, or practicing how to hit a six for bouncer, which is different, or drill scoop, all of this. Your understanding this gives you results in a more specific manner. You're specifically trying to avoid traps in the questions, specifically trying to avoid issues in the question. Is it clear? Should we quickly work on this? Okay. Now, I want all of you to open RTP May 23. Did you find it, or should I share the link? I shared it for final. Let me share it for inter also in case somebody need it. Both have it shared. Now let me share the screen. So this document, we are using it for processing. Okay. So this document for your respective groups, this RTP is completely for processing, not presentation. Presentation, you are working on MTPs, right? So this is for processing. We'll go to audit because we'll just look into all the group of students. You can go into audit. You don't worry, even if you're doing some other subject, even if you're doing law or SFM, don't worry. I'm teaching you a skill which will be helpful for all the papers. Okay. So you're using one subject to build a skill. How many have you? How many of you have a printed copy of this? So go through these amendments. These are very important. You can expect a question directly from this. These amendments which are shared in the RTP are very, very important. High value aspects. So very limited amendments, but these are very important. At least the topics become important. Even whether they ask the amendment or not, the topics become very crucial, important. Please definitely go through this. Amendments are very, very, very important. Please go through this. So all those who are having a printed copy should start writing notes on this itself. Okay, just use this document. RTP has to be processed. You cannot miss this. So these are practice questions for MCQs, and also given independent MCQs. Just practice this. Okay, now let's get to page number 78. Let's get to page number 78. Now what I want you to do is, so we have question number 11, right? Done. So you have 13 questions in audit. Okay, you have 13 questions in audit. So this 13 questions, normally it's a 3-hour exam. Normally, if you have to write this 13 questions, it will take 2.5 3 hours. What you're going to do now is, in the next 50 minutes, you are going to process all these 13 questions. What do you mean by processing? Look at the question, spend time on the question itself. What they're specifically asking, your answer will be lesser than the content of the question. Like point number 1, point number 2, point number 3, that's it. Look at the question and give a 2-mark answer for this question. Accordingly, solve all the questions. Group 2 students can do the same for DT. The same link DT is also available. Spend the next 50 minutes. This is going to be super valuable. It's going to be hard. It's going to test you and you'll become restless. That is totally fine. Don't worry about how you are going to feel, but process this 10 to 12 questions in this 50 minutes where you'll understand the enhanced capability. Are the instructions clear? You literally have to solve all the RTP questions in the next 50 minutes, where you're not focusing on the presentation, but you're rather focusing on the processing part. I'm expecting you to write just 2-3 sentences, like core sentence. How would you respond to this if it's a 2-mark answer? That's it. And how do you structure the question? So jot down whatever you can. All your thoughts also jot down. Not looking for answers. I'm looking at how you are processing a particular question. So there is an adjustment here. Jot down whatever you can. Use a pen and paper. You cannot do it with your brain. Are we good with this? Okay, so we are meeting somewhere around 10:35, 10:40. I'm switching on the timer now. 50 minutes. We'll meet again. Then I'll have one more conversation with you so that this also gets resolved. Last time we had the presentation part. This time we are solving the processing part practically. From there, we'll do what else is required next. Okay, focus on this. Audit for group 1, DT for group 2. Both group students decide whatever is more difficult. Whatever is comfortable, leave it. Whatever is more difficult, do that. Okay. Let me start the timer for you.
Wondered how world-class coaches record world-class videos. Do they memorize their content? Is there a method behind how they do it? How do they manage their team done?
Guys, you're all done? Can I get a quick update on the number of questions you have processed? Text in the chat box. I've given you almost an hour. Oh, very good, Tanuja. What about others? Tanuja, switch on your video. Let's discuss who else has done all questions. 6, Ankit. Others? Arati 8, good. You're not visible, Tanuja. You have to move your place, like switch on your light or something. Yeah. Rest of you just text the number of questions you have done. Yeah, Chakri 9. Chalo, let's start with Chakri for now. Tanuja will be joining. Okay, Tanuja here.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Tanuja. So, how were you able to do it? What are the insights? What worked and what did not?
Sir, I was able to reach to each and every question. My intention was to cover the each and every question that I could in the 50 minutes time. So I have read the questions in the format like first I'm reading the last line, like what is the requirement,
Right.
and if I'm
Good.
not able to figure out the things that, then I read the content of the question. My intention was not to write the each and everything in the question in the answer, but just to put down the key points, like which standard it is relating to,
Right.
and what are the headings that I could relate to. So I have jotted down the points like in the format. But although that was it, I was just going through my answers right now. So I realized that two of the questions I have mistaken by putting the wrong standard.
Okay. So, total number of questions processed. What are the total number of questions you have processed?
So, or like from 11th to 24th, I think.
Okay, so 12, 13 questions you have done. So, out of which 2 questions went wrong.
Yeah, two. No, sir. I didn't check the entire question. I was just going through the answers right now. I could not solve two of the question because the topics I had not covered in my this revision.
So, but basically, in 1 hour time, you're able to process 10 questions, right? That is the understanding. You are able to do it reasonably well. The only thing is, if you didn't know that question already, there is no way that you would have done. So, we are able to compress time. I hope that objective is fulfilled. Instead of taking 2.5 or 3 hours for this, you're able to compress the time and you are able to make it happen in this 1 hour. You understood the concept?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. So what you can do is, whatever points you have written, please click a snap and post in the group or May 23 final. Post that in the group, okay? So that others will also understand how you have jotted down the points. I'll also share my comments on that. Okay, you can do that and verify the answers also. Complete verifying the answers, and we'll have this conversation once again. So as I'm discussing with other students, verify your answers quickly, check and write your observations. We'll continue the discussion. Okay? Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Chakri?
Sir, I did I have read the question. I have striked off what are all the irrelevant parts. So uske baad I have after seeing the question, I have noted down the process, like what are all the points which I recollect. So I have uske baad, I have written aside. So all the points which I have been recollecting. So and then I have verified answer, like some points it were matching. So out of the 13 questions, so one chapter I haven't covered. So I couldn't do it. So for there are like 2-3 questions which are like the qualities, characters, like the qualities and qualities of the operational auditor and all. So those are the things I need to jot down some points, like I couldn't recollect it. So overall it was like I have gone through all the questions. And parallelly, I have able to what's the purpose and what's the question they are asking at the last, like what is the relevant answer, and it was going good. Yeah.
So in terms of time sale, were you able to notice the difference versus how you do it normally, and then is it working?
Yeah.
Now you're able to. Can you visualize using this in the exam, the last 90 minutes of it?
Yeah, of course.
doing it?
Because like I have planned for audit from today actually,
Right.
like today 3 days. So I didn't
Nice.
do the audit. Like it was like 1.5 week, like
Right.
2 weeks before.
Right.
So I was like hesitant, like whether I could jot down some points or not. But yeah, it
Still it
happened.
was working. Even though there is a gap, it was working, right?
Yeah, it's good.
So you can process almost everything. Now I just gave an example of RTP. Even when you have to revise your regular syllabus or whatever book you are going to use, you can
Yeah.
literally process everything.
Yeah.
And you need not wait for questions. I'll give you one more important insight. So when we did this index mapping exercise at the beginning, like when I asked you to do the index mapping exercise, the objective was something similar to this. But the point is, at that point of time, you would not know the subject and you don't have trigger questions. But at the end of the day, when you see a particular word or sentence or statement or clause, what are the top 3 trigger words which you can immediately recollect, and how do you build the entire answer? How do you construct the entire answer is the whole game. So if this is working for you, follow this all across. This is the only thing which you have to do in the next 2-3 days. That's it.
Yeah.
If you do this, this will be sorted. Okay.
Yes.
So quickly verify the answers also, like what
Yeah.
Tanuja are doing. Quickly verify the answers, then I'll
Yeah.
give it. Okay. Yeah. Next, who else has done? Who want to discuss? Surendra? Yeah. You're not audible, Surendra.
Sir, I have done with 10 questions out of 15. And the 5 remaining, I didn't read those chapters. And in those 10 questions also, especially 2 questions, I didn't recollect some points.
Okay.
Rest all are fine.
Okay.
Yes, I processed it in time and everything.
So did you see the improvement in time versus what
Yes,
will
sir.
take normally, and how you're able to understand the process, you're able to apply this? This can be done for other subjects and other components also, other topics and all. Okay, this is what I wanted to do.
Yes,
And
sir.
having said this, the 90 minutes, do not disturb it. Don't get carried away by T20 format completely. The 90 minute which we discussed every single day, write it in the main exam format. So we're dividing this technically into 2 halves. Technically, it's like 60 minutes is what I'm talking about. 40 marks, 24 questions, 24 marks, 40 marks denominator, 24 marks numerator. But additional 30 minutes, I'm giving you a buffer, so that even you do in this format or that format is totally fine. But 90 is the sweet spot. Don't extend it beyond 90. Even this processing, don't extend it beyond 90, because this will give you only 40% or 45% of marks. When you're operating at a speed, don't expect 70% of the mark. That cannot happen. So that is to cross the first half of the paper with good quality. Here we are focusing on the speed. Okay. So quickly verify the answers, then we'll have a final conversation with all of you. Who else? Surendra is done. Soumya, Nirja, Isaiah, all of you, switch on your videos and unmute yourself. Nanavel, Rajan, I spoke to Arati. The rest of you who has done it, please switch on. Rupa. Yes, Nirja, go ahead.
So, sir, I could be able to do 10 questions out of the total questions. And in that 10 questions, probably 8 to 9 questions were there, which I could write it properly. So I wrote it like all the important points that should be in the answers. And also I could see that if I had taken to do it, maybe I would have taken a longer period of time to complete it. But since it was that we all had to do it in one go, so I had started with SFM today. So I was doing SFM until the meeting. So when I took up this, it was the only pending portion, and mock test paper 2 for audit that I have left. So one of the thing is ticked off from the list that I was pending to do. So it was very helpful for me, so that now I do not have the baggage to do RTP 23. So now all I have to do is check these questions and just see whatever is left, like 2-3 points that I have to do. And the remaining questions which I have not done, it is those which is pending for revision. So that is hardly 2 to 3 chapters, which I can complete it in the remaining days also. So because it was done with the time period of 90 minutes, I could complete it. Sorry, 50 minutes, I could complete it fairly, but in a better manner.
And you brought in a very good point, actually. For others also, when you have a lot of pending checklists, at least complete 30 to 40% in this format. It could be a chapter. For example, portfolio management, you are not able to do this. You're not satisfied that you're not done it. So don't do it in the regular format of 3 to 4 hours. All your color coding sheet, you mentioned 3 hours. Give yourself only 1 hour and finish it. You'll be done with 80% efficiency. So that is something which you can work on it. quickly verify the answers, then we'll discuss along with others. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Isaiah?
Hi, sir.
Hi.
So one or two, well, I did 8 questions. So 1 or 2 questions which I was pretty confident with, I wrote the whole thing. And the
Right.
others, yeah, they're like that I should approach for CAT and internal control, that I was pretty confident. So I wrote all the points. Some points which I was not too sure, I just wrote the key points, and then yeah, just
But you were able to process
Yeah,
8 questions in that 50 minutes?
Yes, 8 questions I was able to do for that 15, because I didn't plan an audit revision now.
Right.
Currently, till this 2 days, I was planning 2-3 days, I was planning to do law and then start with FR. So yeah, it was good that I could process or
Very good. So,
recall the concepts of audit at this.
so as long as simple, I'll give you the number. As long as you're processing a question in 5 minutes, you have a very good command. In your case, it could be 6 minutes here and there. So don't worry if it's 6 or 7 minutes. As long as you're able to process something in 5 minutes, which implies that your preparation is in a very good shape.
Right.
Now, the second part is the question, some question could go wrong, some question could go right. That's a separate part. But the processing time should not take more than 5 minutes. So this is the game, right? Good.
Good.
Next, Soumya.
So I first 5 minutes I have gone through the whole article. So what the questions I
This
know.
is nice. Good. This is an improvement.
So afterwards, I have started the revision of audit 1 day back itself. It's been like 1.5 months. So I was in the doubt whether I could recall, or, but after writing this article, I was like, okay. Up to these 7 questions, I was able to recall. There are 2, 3, 4 questions. Like I have only pinned down to particular chapters which I'm going to revise and re-revise, because I'm not confident about the others and I don't want to waste my time on those. Then I want to spend more time on these. So I was able to see the question, and I have given a gist of, okay, this point, particular key points I have noted down. Within 50 minutes, as you said, treat it as a 2 marks question. So, okay, this point I have gone through that. And I was able to go through 7 questions, and now I was checking the answers. So, like, okay, I was able to recall. That is the most big thing I was satisfied with, that I was able to recall. Yeah, I can recall if I go these 4 days. Okay, audit can be recall. That is what I want to.
Now you're, even without looking at the answer, you're feeling confident, right? Like, okay,
Yeah, lot
it's not
better.
that, yeah. So this is the state of mind with which you have to approach. You are not solved the problem, but the way we are looking at the problem is resolved because of what you have done. So it's like 1 hour test drive. Now you can replicate this 1 hour into 10x into 4 days. 1 hour is
These
what
4 days are, yesterday was different. Now these days going to be different.
that's the whole objective of this. And thank you. And the first part is also smart about it. Like, even though you have only 50 minutes, still you spend the top 10% of 5 minutes in going through that. That's a very good fundamental way of understanding everything. Yes, that always works. Even when you have only 5 minutes, it's worth spending 1 minute to going through everything. So that is a good point. Very good. I'll revert to you also. Okay. Arathi.
Yes, sir. I could complete only 8 questions out of 30. Like some questions were very new to me. The scenario-based questions. The other question, direct questions, I could jot down the points. But the scenario-based questions, I took, like, only looking at the question, I was not able to, like, connect. So it took some time for me for that. But the rest questions I could attempt.
Right. So now I'll just add one more thing. Like you said, there are some questions which you are not able to, we're not very comfortable with. What we have to understand is whether we think we know the question or we don't know the question, we don't know whether we are right or wrong. Because I'll tell you, 2 things will happen. Sometimes we think we don't know the question, we'll get good marks. Sometimes we know that we know the question, but we'll get very less marks. Right? This is a possibility. So the ultimate answer, we are not sure. What we are focusing is on processing. Now, I'll tell you, when I give you the next 15 minutes to look at the answers, your opinion will slightly change because you'll make more mistakes than what you have thought. That is always there. But as long as processing the question, like looking at the question, processing it and breaking down into pieces, it should not take 5 minutes. So next time when you come across a question which you do not know, still process it the way it is. That's okay. Still treat it the way you would treat other questions. The end outcome, the accuracy, the relevance, the amount of mark which you might get out of it is a different story. So 8 is decent. Like most of your friends have done 8, 9. So that is decent. So it's in a good shape. But but make sure don't have this hesitant approach towards a question which you don't know, especially when you're already working on the speed. We are not, the 90 minutes is different. Then you can be hesitant about choosing a particular question. You only pick up what's best. In this, we are not distinguishing between question X and Y because we don't know. We are solving everything. We are solving 60 marks of the paper or 50 marks of the paper. Out of this, we'll get 25 marks. We don't know which 25. So you don't have to be hesitant. Process it, fine tune it, and present it in the manner which works the best in that limited time. So 5 minutes of processing, and then remaining, you can use some time in terms of presentation. If you have to convert this into the exam insight, what I would recommend is, in your answer sheet, there is a rough paper, right? The last 2-3 papers, rough paper is there. Imagine an audit, you have started the paper at 1:45. The last first 15 minutes, you have only focused on identifying 2 questions which you know for sure. So first 1 hour, you attempted 40 marks, including MCQ, or 3 questions, or however it is. You attempted 40 marks, expecting 24 marks or 22 marks out of done. The remaining 60 mark paper, let's say it took 75 minutes instead of 60 minutes. The remaining 60 marks paper, what I would recommend is process this entirely in half an hour. Like you already taken 75 minutes, take another 15-20 minutes only in processing it the way you did it. Now you have processed 10 questions. There you have to process only 3 to 4 questions. Process everything. Now this time, for you to choose which question you have to write next, look into your answer sheet, which you have processed. The question paper is not relevant. This will give you clear-cut insight about what is the next question you have to choose, how much amount of time you have to pay in presentation. The reason why your decision works is you are basing your decision based on what you know and not based on the question paper in general. So this way, in 90 minutes to 100 minutes, you have solved the paper. You just have to add some makeup and present it in the question paper on the sheet. So this will maximize your chance of scoring. And this is the realistic way. You're not worried, you're not scared. It is what it is. You know, you don't know. Now you're investing more time in spending or in writing what you know well, and you know that what you don't know. You very well know what you don't know. There you are just taking a chance. This is what I barely know. Please see if you can add some 1 to 3 marks, is what you're communicating to the examiner indirectly. So when the examiner starts from the paper at the beginning, okay, this decent, reasonable, well, good enough. 4 insights, like let's say 10, 8, another 8, another 10 to 12 out of the entire bunch. Probably the last segment, last half an hour of what you have written, you won't stop at 42. Okay, let me add 1 mark. So this is how the mentality works, right? Instead of a scrambled paper who is playing hide and seek, who's trying to cheat the examiner, they don't respect it. Now you are being very clear. This is what I know. This is what I know. This is what I know less. This is what I barely know. Systematic. See, this is how it can work. And further optimization of this, the last 3 questions you don't know well. 2 questions you can write something, and the ending question, closing question, you can present it a bit more, like give extra 5-10 minutes because you're closing, finishing shot, like a winning shot. Then you pay at that point of time, since it takes a decision, he may add 1-2 marks. Just saying. So these are various ways of presenting what you know, right? So this is what I want to work upon. Just go back and I would say work on the solutions. But 8 questions is decent. Your attempt is decent. Don't worry about it. Okay. Yes. Let me now bring in Rajan. I think you solved the highest number of questions.
Yes, sir. Means I have mentioned that 13 to 14 questions, considering all sub questions of each and everything. So from 20, considering sub question, I have attempted 13 to 14.
Right.
So as far as that is concerned, the most beneficial as far as RTP is concerned, the day in revision submission and midday revision submission are very much helpful to me as of now, processing and recollecting. So I could able to solve, but as far while verification of the answer with the I could map down that there is some, I have that conclusion in my mind, conclusion and some very key aspect, but the what is the relevant flow of the answer, that is missing. So I shall take care about the flow in proper manner. Maybe conclusion and keywords maybe get me to 1 or 2 marks, but the wrong flow of maybe it is adverse for my answer. So that I shall focus on that now.
Right. What else?
Then other thing, And some chapters what I haven't revised means I haven't studied that questions I couldn't able to recollect, even though I have solved in this RTP, but I couldn't able to collect because I haven't covered that portion as far as my self study is concerned. So one thing that could I do, I can cover that so that I can also recollect that content in my mind, whatever it's told, because overall I haven't covered it. That's why.
Perfect.
So
Makes
as
sense.
far as processing is concerned, in the last 90 minutes or 60 to 90 minutes, I am able to means I am rest assured about it. If I have solved questions, I could able to write conclusions and keywords.
Perfect. So you no longer have to worry about time. Time part is reasonably solved, both in preparation, revision, and examination, right? That is the conclusion.
Yes.
Now we have to work upon the accuracy.
Yes.
Like accuracy in the sense, how would you precisely present what you already know?
Hmm.
How would you make a decent attempt on what you don't know? These are the two things we have to solve. That's it, no? In terms of having time, that is resolved. I think that is the case with all of you. Clear?
Yeah.
Let me listen to Nanavel and then I'll conclude. Yes.
Sir, I could actually go through all the questions, but I could identify that certain questions I couldn't process because I was not done with this chapter. I did it like a 50-60%, and I just left that. So the questions were about that, which part I left. And I could recollect majority of the points. Like if it are at 6 to 7 points, I could recollect 4 to 5 points. And I knew that there are 5 points or 6 points in that particular category. So I also knew that ये point याद नहीं आ रहा. When it comes to Karo questions, I have like specific applicability and non-applicability. I understood one thing is that you have to write whatever thing you know about that particular clause. You have to mention certain. You should not. You should not be like, is this and this is why it is not applicable, and if you're leaving it, that is a mistake that which I have done in part of Karo. So I have to solve more questions on Karo part. And rest of the things I did, I feel like I have done a justice to my preparation as of now. And yeah, more or less I have done good on this part. I could recollect.
Perfect. Good.
But I need to work on the. I need to, as Rajan mentioned, I need to work on the flow of the answer. Like it's to how to start and how to conclude. That I need to work on it because I knew the points, but then.
Cool. I got it. So I'll tell you what we have done till now. Basically, at this junction, 1 week before the exam, most of the students have only one problem. They worry that they don't have enough time. They assume that if I have one more week, शायद और एक week होता तो नहीं तो had I started 1 week before, so they'll be in this what if all these scenarios. Now I wanted to remove that from your mind completely. Now I'm 100% sure, just like Soumya, I can see the look on her face where she is very confident. Until yesterday it was different, now it is going to be different. So just want to tell you that we have enough time, right? We have enough time. The reason why I had to do this is, when you are looking at a particular problem, there is two aspects to it. One is a perceptual part of the problem. Like you think you don't have time, that is only a perceptual problem. But if you look at the accuracy, like what you are writing versus what institute is expecting, that's a real problem. That is a real problem which is going to kill your marks. So today I want to completely kill your perceptual problems. We'll have real problems, we'll solve only real problems. Motivation is a perception bullshit problem. Let's solve real problems, okay? So when it's a real problem, you'll notice if you're fixing something, you'll see a significant improvement in your marks directly. Now, when we looked at it, a part of it is perception. The real problem which I solved here for you is time management. Now, you clearly know that you don't have to worry about time even while writing the exam, not just about in the next 1 week or 1.5 day. Now you are clear about how do you revise the entire subject in 1.5 days. If you know that, this can be done in 15 minutes. In 15 minutes, if you can do so much, in 15 to 20 hours, what can be done, right? So that is also sorted. Now, we are left with two things. As I mentioned, how do we present what we know in the best manner? Or how do we convert what we already know into the highest amount of marks? Marks maximization, right? Next, in topics and questions which we are not comfortable, how do we get reasonable marks? We call it optimization. One is maximization. Maximization works for topics you know. Optimization works for topics you don't know, because we cannot maximize marks there. We don't know anything, right? These are the two problems left out. Everything else we resolve in terms of completing the syllabus reasonably well, revising your day-end revision, exam mistake tracker, all of the sessions and the missions which you have done in between, practical assignments, everything. So it has come to a particular shape. Now, what I'll do is, I'll help you understand what went right in your preparation, because as we proceed forward, you should no longer worry about your attempt. You should not have any regrets about your preparation. I'll make you enter a different state of mind, like half class, half empty, half full, half empty. Until now, in mentorship, we always focus on half empty. We always talk about exam mistake tracker. What is the mistake you're talking about? What could go wrong? All of that, right? Because you cannot afford to make some mistakes and they should not go under the carpet. But right now, enough. It's enough. We have been critical. We have been harsh to ourselves. We have figured out a lot of things. We are doing all of this. It's time to look at the positive side of things. It's time to look at what is already filled in. So once we decide that this is completely full, this is completely sorted, then we'll once again see what else is left out. If the class is 75% filled, you don't have to worry about the remaining 25%, right? So that is the exercise which you are going to do. Okay. In the next 10 minutes, you kind of think about what worked positively for your preparation. What worked positively for your preparation? Now I'll give you a better question to help you organize your answer. Why should I select you for becoming a chartered accountant? Imagine this is an interview. I'm going to interview you. Let's say I'm going to interview for 2 minutes. I'm going to ask you, there are 1,60,000 students who are preparing for the attempt. Out of this 1,60,000 students, including first group, second group, and both groups together, only 30,000 students will clear. This is the average of the last 5 attempts. Every attempt, 1.3 lakh students are failing. You just have to tell me, why should you be made a chartered accountant, or why should you clear your group 1 or group 2, whichever you're writing, as compared to somebody else. By the time you finish giving your answer, you will see significant clarity, confidence, competence reflecting in your preparation. Now, this is a reality. So this 2-minute conversation which we are going to have will reset your mindset to a different level altogether. Just like what happened to Soumya, you'll experience that. You'll be very, very confident about approaching this exam in the next 2-3 weeks. So you'll understand once this happens. But before that, I want you to give refined answers. Think through clearly. In 10 minutes, just like UPSC civil services, there is always a question. Why should you be selected as IAS officer? Now they'll write the written exam, they'll write the prelims exam, everything is there. Over and above, we want to know why somebody should be selected. So that reflects your self-esteem, that reflects your self-assessment of what has happened so far. So obviously, in interview, you don't degrade yourself, right? In your mental makeup, we keep degrading ourselves. But when you have to talk to this externally to someone, especially to a mentor, you definitely don't want to degrade yourself. So that is the default state of mind which I want you to elevate in the next half an hour or so. Okay. So what is going to happen is, if you want, you can write down. Just tell me why you should be clearing this exam, or why you should be given this chartered accountancy in this attempt. You can go back, look at all the steps, mention everything that is working. Let's say you are one of the very few students who are waking up at 5 o'clock, right? So when you are waking up at 5 o'clock, when you're starting your day with revision, when you're following a process systematically, of course, you are putting that kind of effort. And you can even present yourself that not many students are working as hard as you. Know that. You understand that in terms of outcome, you don't know. But in terms of efforts, very few students can beat you. So you answer that question. Once that is sorted, I'll give you a framework, or I'll give you a base where from there, you'll only be few marks away. Most of you will see that you're already reached 175 to 180. So that is going to happen. How do we conquer the remaining 15 marks or 20 marks? We'll deal with it separately. So now it is all about consolidation of what has already happened. Okay. I'm giving you 10 minutes. Jot down. You can mention specific points. Like you can mention the number of hours you have prepared. You can mention your confidence. You can mention your whatever it is, whatever you have done so well in your preparation. You can include techniques, everything. So make it, it's like an interview. Why should I hire you? Why should I make you a chartered accountant? Imagine ICH asking you. So this is going to be the conversation. So we'll experience tremendous positivity because we overestimate motivation and willpower, but there is something called environment. When you listen to a lot of positive things in 15-20 minutes, your mind will shift. It will shift significantly. From there, I'll take you through one more step. By the end of that, by 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock today, most of you will know that you are going to clear the exam. You don't have to wait for the question paper. You don't have to wait for your result. So that is the attempt which you are going to do. Are we clear? Are we good with this? 10 minutes. Make a clear-cut written pitch. I'll ask you about the written part also. But here we are having an oral conversation of what worked really well in your preparation. Cool. So I'll start talking to you from 11:25. So I'm giving you 30 minutes. Write down everything. This is a very, very important exercise. This will reset your mindset without the need for any other conversation till the end of the exam. Just make a clear-cut pitch. Jot down everything in detail. The number of hours you're working, your techniques you are following, number of exams you've written, everything positive about it. So this is what will reset your mind. Go ahead. Start working on this. Write it very clear. Document it. Unless you document it clearly, you cannot articulate it. Write it very clearly.